What, bro?
What's happening?
Chilling, just dabbing on some tings. What are you saying?
I'm looking for a torch. Just found it.
Looking for the old Benzomatic. It can't go far. Nobody's stealing that thing.
Nobody is stealing that thing.
The old Benzomatic.
That's it. That's how we're rocking.
This is true MTS style right here.
We're trying to get shit done. You know what I mean? We're not trying to look cool. We're trying to get shit done.
We're not trying to look cool. We're trying to do things fast.
Yep. I'll be heady some other time. Right now, I'm trying to get high.
That's so funny, bro. Were you at the comic book store today?
Yeah. I forget the name of it, but it's in New York City. It's a big ass comic store. 2 stories. Mace would have loved it.
That's sick.
Hmm.
How'd the kid like it?
Oh, he loved it, man. He got himself a couple comic books. He was looking for like a big Spider-Man. I don't know what they call the things that are bigger than action figures, but he's looking for one of them. We didn't find one. They have a bunch of cool ones there though. I really like the Gladiator Hulk. Dude, this is bad advertising for the Benzomatic. You know what I mean? What's happening with your Benzomatic over there?
It worked yesterday. He went up yesterday. I don't know if he got knocked.
Public viewers, do not take this.
Yeah, no, they are amazing. Oh.
Yeah.
Weird things at Guam.
It wants the map gas. That's what I'm saying. It's like, listen, we don't know about this propane. This ain't no Hank Hill.
Yeah, it's straight propane here. Wow. We're going back to Jason looks like a caveman trying to start a fire. Like I can start fires. I just want to start that fire. Going back to the see, that's it, Dan. What up, Panorama Farms? What are you smoking on, Mikey?
Let's see. I got Future Wife, Southern Hospitality, and just a little bit left of that Moth Mix.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
What's the Future Wife like?
Future Wife is just straight gas. It's not OG gas. It's like newer gas, but it's not garlic. I don't know. I want to say it's like something like Hellfire OG, and I don't know. It's stuff that sounds like nicknames for a really, really mad, scornful woman, which is, I think, why the Future Wife is the name of it. Because it's just like, Spitfire OG, I'll stab you in your sleep, Kush, whatever.
Take all your money, breath.
Yeah, this is going to be a bad divorce, OG.
Oh, that's too funny.
Yep.
What? So you booked your flights to fucking Hawaii? That's sick. That's awesome.
Fuck yeah! I can't wait to get back there. Last year, I just like most of the trips that I take. Any of the trips that I take in years is that it's only been business, and then like I took my son on a vacation last year, but I don't go on just fun vacations for me. I haven't in a bunch of years, so I'm taking one.
Are you? Did you message Preston?
Yeah. I messaged Justin and Preston and let them know I'm going to be over there. So pumped.
That's dope.
They'll
have a one wheel for you. Or are you going to ship your one wheel?
They got a bunch of one wheels, man. They're nuts on those things. They got them all modded out, and it's cool. Aside from that, they have fruit terps that slap, bro. Like exactly how I like them to hit.
Yeah.
So
I've heard lore. I've heard lore of the terps.
Yeah, they're fantastic. Something about that Hawaiian soil and everything going on there.
Yeah, that's dope, man. Are you traveling much between then and now, or just back and forth to Maine?
So me and the kid are doing a couple of days in New York City and a couple of days in Boston, and then other than that, I'm gonna hit Maine one time before I roll out to Hawaii.
Nice.
I try, B. Shout out Honeycomb. Those are my homies. doing some amazing things like they always have been up there in Maine.
That's dope. That's dope.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I'm very excited. I think I might be grabbing a hashtag. I was chatting with Alex today.
Nice.
Yeah,
You got to do the table or the tilt?
the table. The table with the screen. Pretty much exactly like Mission Come.
Mm-hmm.
Just makes
Yeah.
sense. Makes a lot of sense.
That's the tilt is a high, like it's kind of a high ceiling thing, but other than that, man, I like that so much.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Man, I'm fucking excited for Whale Oil tomorrow. That's gonna be a fun interview because that guy's well spoken. That guy can just talk. Like you just let him go. You know, it's like a Kevin Jodry. It's like just go.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking
Yeah, the gift of gab.
bro, he grew up in Alaska and then moved to Atlanta. Like that's a pretty aggressive. Alaska to Atlanta is like that's a ripping the Band-Aid off. Serious.
That is an aggressive move. I imagine those Alaskan wilderness are very different than than the Atlanta type.
Yeah, jeez.
Shout out Atlanta fucking barbecue, bro. Me and the kid went down there one time, spent a couple of days in Atlanta. Oh my god, the food there was so amazing.
Yeah. The South knows how to eat, bro.
Yeah, some of the best pork belly I've ever had in my life.
It's all about the brine. Like with the meat, like if you're not brining your meat, I think that's where like when people are like, how do you get it to taste like this? It's like you brine it. You soak it in salt. And then you do your thing.
Mm-hmm.
Salt and sugar.
Yeah, man, they were crushing. I gotta get my tab heated up here. Rocking the little Bob Badstrom or something. I forget how you say this dude's name. He's like a super old head. A little skull. Got a little skull jammer from him.
That's not what's his name? No.
There's somebody that's like real famous that's like similar to him but way more famous. Like that dude's kind of known for Glass People, but the other dude is like super well known and does a bunch of collabs with famous people and stuff.
Snodgrass. Is it a Snodgrass?
Yeah, so no, it's not Snodgrass, but it's like from that era and type of blower. He's just not nearly as well known as Snodgrass, but some old head glass blower dude told me about him.
True. Yeah, I've got a little travel piece that I love to rock around with on trips like you were on. Oh man, I'm
gonna stop by Stoked when we go up to, because we'll be passing through Connecticut. Should be right on the way. It's like an East Coast smoke shop where they hold lots of good glass shows, and they just have a really good vibe to the people there.
See if there's any nice head teas over there.
Yeah. There's some stuff. I need to not be buying glass right now. I don't have the money for it, but is what it is. Sometimes I'll be doing things I shouldn't do.
You don't have any you don't have any of the Pops Deuce with you?
No, you know what? I didn't have a ton of that Pops tea left, and yeah, I didn't have a ton of the Pops tea left, and I'm not gonna press any more until I'm gonna press a little bit right before I go to Hawaii because I want to bring some of those terps to the homies there. But other than that, I'm not gonna press any more of that. I'll press a little batch then, but then I'm waiting until around January. I have so many terps to smoke through right now.
Word.
Yep.
That's perfect.
Yeah,
I'm gonna see you in January, so that'd be perfect timing.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I'm pressing it for. Bro. I think I'll tell you offline, but I think I'm gonna do something different when I enter.
Okay. So, I mean, there's so much strategy about, you know, when you hand it in, how you hand it in?
I haven't seen anybody. Whatever. It's either a great move or it's gonna alienate some of the judges. But I'm gonna do it.
Ooh, I'm interested in this. Oh, I'm not interested in that. Oh, man. Oh. Oh. No, thank you. No, thank you.
What are you dabbing on tonight?
Oh, I just dabbed on something disgusting.
Some more?
I had some of the entries that I thought were good from a cup I judged last weekend, but I vastly misrepresented. I did. Ugh, it was gross.
Yeah.
I need to smoke some Canadian dabs to level me out. But yeah, no, that wasn't enjoyable. It's incredible how much bad rosin there is out there. Absolutely incredible.
I agree with that.
Still to this day. Oh man. But yeah, it was. Oh, that was gross. How long are you in New York for this time?
Just 2 days. Doing 2 days here, 2 days in Boston.
What food do you go get when you're in New York?
So like tonight we went out to like a ramen yakitori spot. Got a bunch of yakitori type stuff. And like I did like a custard stew. I got the kid like one of the little Mao buns or whatever they are. But yeah, like there was a chicken meatball thing that was amazing. The short rib was amazing. The custard stew was actually pretty good. Yeah, overall, it was just like a whole bunch of small plates.
I like the small plates.
Yeah. I like when I just have a whole table full of small plates. And I'm just picking and eating off of everything.
Yeah.
Did like a little bit of sushi, a little bit of some fish.
Do you eat like sushi, like with rice, or do you just eat this sashimi?
Yes, I would say that sushi rice is the number one way I take in grains, like by probably an exponential amount. Because I probably have sushi once a week, and I definitely don't have any sort of bread or like any sort of fried stuff or anything once a week. So
True. That's very cool. Are you are you playing around with any of your like long-term jar techs now, or are you like put that away for the time being and just doing the irrigation stuff?
So the company that I'm working with up in Maine, we're doing jar tech with their stuff, and they're doing really big batches. Like we processed over 1,000 grams of hash the last time I was up there. So they have a couple jars going right now in the oven. We'll see how they go. They were with the mason jar, so it doesn't hold quite as good a pressure, but they were holding pressure pretty well. We're ordering in some of the U-line jars. I'm going to take up the stainless lids with me next time, as well as, I'm talking to somebody that is a jar maker, and, we talked about them making lids specifically for jar tech. So I'm really hoping that comes along as well. I think
What would
that's,
a lid specifically for jar tech look like? Like would it
a
be
lid specific for jar. A lid specifically for jar tech would have a silicone seal. It would be made of stainless, it would have a silicone seal. It would be made of stainless steel, and it would hold a minimum of 10 psi, but not exceed 15 psi.
Interesting.
Probably. I mean, you might want to run that up to 20, but you don't want to pop a jar.
Yeah.
So that's the parameters that I think would be best if it holds between 10 and 15, but a minimum of 10. And I think if it holds over 20, you would be at risk of breaking jars. But, some of them just seem weaker and you're heating and cooling. I think a normal jar should be able to handle that fine. But
Interesting. Would you ever want to do just straight glass on glass, like a glass seal? I guess it wouldn't be able to hold the pressure in properly.
right, I don't think it'd be able to maintain the pressure.
Yeah.
So I'm still waiting for someone else to try this. I haven't tried it yet. But what I don't understand why people aren't doing, and you could do this with a ball jar style lid, and it would work fine. So take a diamond miner with a viewport from hydrocarbon. You can pressurize those. You can pressurize those with nitrogen, which people often say is better than just regular air for making diamonds. And I've seen the Bryantist attempt this, where he did this, but was with an open top. Just leave the lid on the jar and then pressurize it to the PSI that you want. And you're going to maintain that ultra saturation in the air of terpenes and get some of them to drop back out into the solution rather than filling an entire container that is much larger than the solution that you're working with all those terpenes that are off-gassing.
The Bryantist has tried this?
He's done it, but with the lids off, so that way he can adjust the pressure that way. It's just like, man, you're going to build up that pressure within the jar for sure by utilizing the heat. Why are you taking the lid off?
What are you gaining by keeping the lid on? More control or a higher temperature? More pressure?
You're creating a much smaller space.
Yeah.
So
terps?
Terps. It's terp preservation. Yeah.
And
that terp preservation really, like, those are the things that are going to off gas the fastest. Those are also the things that are acting as the solvent for your diamond making. So holding more of those within the jar not only is going to taste better, but it's also going to be better for making bigger faucets. And that's like, I saw the product that came out, the stuff that he did, and it wasn't, I've done way better with just an oven.
100%. It's going to be interesting to see. I think like a lot of terp fractions are going to be taken and a lot of diamonds are going to be made in the future in the regulated markets. And I don't necessarily think that that's the best product offerings for solventless, but I think
I just like the preservation. So like the room that I've been keeping I used to keep my terps all in a room that was 64 degrees at all times. And now the room that I'm keeping them in is like 70. And I'm knowing a lot more degradation than I noticed in the past. That 6-degree difference is making a huge difference on how long my terps last. And I do not see that degradation on the ones that I've done, especially Diamond Tech with. If I've only done like a batter tech with them, they're still degrading at a rate that's not quite as fast as a cold cure, but still degrading. But that Diamond Tech, man, it just sits there and stays the exact same for forever. And that 6-degree difference doesn't make a difference.
Interesting.
So
Why?
My only theory would be that you're manipulating the fats and waxes in a way that changes the ratio of them, and already whatever happens that oxidizes them, I think you're kind of pre-doing that with heat. So it's not as natural of a process, and I think it's not, I don't know. I don't know how to word that exactly, but I hope you get the point I'm trying to.
So that there's no, yeah, man, I don't know why that's happening. That's interesting.
Yeah. But I mean, and that's, whenever you hear someone else espousing the positivities of it, that's always the biggest one, is that's like a preservation. It's considerably better for shelf life. And, I've often just considered that as compared to fresh press, but now I'm considering that as opposed to cold cure as well. And, without keeping my terps in as good of an environment, I'm seeing a big difference.
Yeah, 6 degrees, big difference.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because like my terps at the rate that I smoke through them and everything like that, and these are mine. Like I've ran these all before. I haven't changed my setup a ton or anything, and at that 64 degrees, the length I would after a month now, they're starting to be like to a place where I'm noticing degradation to where I want to smoke that fast. Versus before, I felt like I had a lot more time with them.
And you think cold cure degrades across the board faster than something like jammed out?
Yeah. In my experience, every single time that's been true.
Interesting. Yo, fuck that.
Maybe.
Man. Fuck. I'm smoking any more of this.
Man, the only one that I could say maybe that's not true on is Pops Deuce. That would be batch dependent. But Pops does tend to it's good for forever. I don't know what's going on in there, but must just have very, very little of things that degrade naturally. And like if you take it at 60, if you take it at 70, it doesn't matter. That stuff comes out like white.
Yeah, Fruit Joy does that too, but it's super stable the same way Pops is, and when you're like Pops gets more wet, I find that super interesting too.
That's something that I really enjoy about it, and that's why I say like that it doesn't conform to that cold cure getting bad within that first month that I'm seeing at the 70-degree temperature. I'm used to like a 2.5 month. Like at 64 degrees, that's like if I haven't smoked it within 2.5 months, it's starting to get to a point of degradation where I'm like, fuck, I should have smoked this faster.
And you're saying at 6 degrees more of room temperature storage, you're seeing that go down by more than 100%, where it's like 30 days.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now the only one that I'm not counting that on is Pops, but I mean,
yeah,
there's like a bunch of them just lately have not been I've been holding, and that's the only difference is that I have them in a different environment.
Interesting. We have so much. It'll be so cool when we know the answers to things. We're not just sitting here fucking speculating about why that rosin stays wet. Because I mean, that's what it's going to be. Is the next thing after it does it wash is how does the resin hold? You know what I mean? Like fucking like okay, you've got 6%, but is it dry? Like is the resin dry? How does it hold up when it's grammed out? And I think that those like, super sleeper unsung heroes, the Fruit Joys, the Pops Deuces, the Southern Hospitalities, all these, really special resins will be able to hold up to that shelf stability.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's, when you talk to me and talk about my selection process, that's one of the things that I do is I set all of my jars out at room temperature for a month, and I judge them in fresh press. I judge them right when they're cured out, and then I judge them a month from cured out. And that last one is my most important one because I know I'm smoking my terps right away. But, like I hear stories from other people that are getting terps fresh, but they're like a 3-month-old batch from me. And that's just, maybe that was, who knows, however that got shuffled to that person. But I really care about that person's experience and I want it to be good. If it's something that's degrading and that person wasn't keeping it in the right environment, it's not going to be a good experience for them.
It's not as simple as something higher in THCA and lower in terps get dry and lower in THCA and higher in terps stay wet. We've just, between Mikey, myself, and a number of our peers, we've seen too many that it's not that simple.
Yeah, the tests unfortunately don't really match up with the nose, the look. The tests are the tests, and they're cool that we're quantifying things, but I don't think we're there yet on
We're just not
understanding.
looking. We're just not looking for the right things, right? Like, you know, like you're trying to say how much body fat does that human have? Okay, get on the scale. He weighs 300 pounds. It's like, well, no, that information is not valid for my question, right? You give me how much he weighs. I need how much body fat he has. You're just not quantifying the right numbers yet. But we will. We're working on it.
Yeah.
What are you doing next time you go up to Maine? Are you washing again, or is it just like post-process stuff?
Yeah, so we'll be washing again. We may be working with a little bit of outdoor next time. I'm very interested to see that. Yeah, it will be time to check out. The diamond should be all finished that we did up there. And I'm guessing that they'll have the room a little bit more refined. Because I know they did have the machine down at their dispo area of production. And they had brought it up to another area where their C1D1 is.
What machine?
So,
What machine?
the Osprey?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yep. So, and I'm going to take up, they had like a assortment of bags. They didn't have cube bags. The triangle bags, like I agree with Adam that I'm not super fond of them. But I will say that they did seem to kind of grab the corners and turn them well, which is something that I'm kind of looking for if I am using a bag within the machine, especially if it's not like the Hashtag where it's taking big paddles and kind of moving the bags where it's relying on the water flow from a vortex at the bottom.
Yeah. Were you seeing enough like stop and change direction agitation for your liking within those bags, like washing within those triangle bags?
Can you reword that?
Like, were you seeing like yeah, I didn't word that right. You know how like the shift in direction is when the glands are more than likely severed from the stalks. Are you seeing, like, compared to the Hashtag, how are you able to move the water? Like, were you seeing
Okay,
good yields on the first pulls, or were your yields fatter on rounds 2 because it took you a while to work in the material?
So, two things on this. The first one, I don't always believe in what everyone else believes, that when you're changing direction is when the majority of heads are shearing off. So I played around a decent amount. I kept the spin time at a minute and a half each way. We were doing like 10 seconds and 4 seconds on the Hashtag because it is much more like hand paddling. So I tried running at 200, 220, 240 RPM on the first washes. And I tried doing I think it was the third round, I did 200 only for the first 2 washes. And I helped manipulate with a paddle at the top because the one bag was a giant bag with like 7K in it, and it just wasn't moving as well as it needed to. But that was just the bag that we had available to stuff, so we stuffed it and threw it in as the last run of the night. So, in that one, because you're relying more upon the water moving things around than the paddle moving things around, I think that you need the vortex a lot more. So I would say the little bit higher RPMs were something that I wanted to go into versus the Hashtag. I would keep it at a much, much slower pace. It seemed to really dump at like 240 to 260. It didn't do a lot at the 200 to 220 range.
Interesting things. So what do you think of, like, the heads are falling off? Like, with the with current, like on the one way, like they're just popping off. Like, what are you thinking?
So I think that the only heads that you're removing when you're doing that change in direction is the ones that are right near the paddle that are taking a lot of water movement in the opposite direction of which way it was moving, or when they're trying to flow past it and it's pulling them back because it's creating a vacuum. I don't think that the heads are like kind of pushed off. I think that's what's happening is they're sucked off by a vacuum created within the water. And I think that you can create that vacuum really easily with a vortex as well as a change in direction. So that's why I really prefer to use vortex rather than a change in direction, because I feel like when you use changes in direction, one, you're not getting that negative water pull on the heads across it like you would, if you're just moving in really fast water, like that's kind of pulling on you, right? It doesn't need to be like crashing against you like a wave, right? Just like a riptide or whatever, right? Like think about that. It's still creating manipulation, and just a much faster riptide. So rather than waves. So yeah, so I just think that there has to be a force within the water that is doing that, and I think we think of it as in too percussive of an ideal, and that's why I think there is a little bit of that's why I think there is a little bit of merit to the iceless type stuff, but most people don't have an iceless setup. Go ahead.
Gives a little merit to the what?
To iceless washes.
Oh, iceless. Okay.
Yeah, but most people don't have a setup that should be doing that. So,
when you repurposed and created your own machine, dubbed beautifully the baby bird, did you ever just run it one way the whole time?
No, because it's on a.
Oh yeah. It's on the bubble now.
It's on the bubble now.
Because that's the only way you can prove this out.
Yeah.
You just have to do a run one way. I think you're wrong. Like, I love you like a brother. And I want to learn this, but like, I feel
okay, so here's the deal. I haven't done this. I haven't done this in a machine, but I've done this by hand. And I got fucking great yield. I only spun the barrel one way for an entire wash. I didn't change direction at all.
Did you get less yield? Did you know the flour?
No, yeah, it was Straw Grease Willie, and that was the one where I hit 5%. Now, I've hit between 4% and 5.5%. 5% is a really good run for me. Normally, it was in like mid-4s. It was fire, too.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I tried to go really gentle on how I was stopping and starting the vortex, but I was trying to get as fast of a vortex as I possibly could get going. I don't necessarily believe that this works with bags, but if you're talking naked washes, this is what some of my experience is telling me.
Why wouldn't it work with bags?
Because I just don't think that you're able to create the forces within those bags, because I think they act as kind of a barrier. And that's why I think the other style of washing, where you are going back and forth and stuff, that seems to work way better for bags. But I think if I can get a fast enough water flow with those, and the other thing is that I think that when you're that change in direction, I think that that's where your plant contaminant comes from. And I will tell you, the one that I did only one direction on had very low contaminant on.
Interesting. Makes you think. I wonder. Yeah.
But you have to have that water going. It's not like I know, like when you hear Q talk about his first round of washing. Hour, super, super crazy gentle. Doesn't even want to hear the paddle touch the ice, but it's just a straight up and down, right? So it's like, it's small movements and it's change in direction of water. So I think next to that paddle, you are creating those vacuum type events where you are pulling those heads off. And I think that that's what's happening within there. Yeah, I think it's a vacuum type effect.
Interesting.
Yeah. Like, so when a boat right? When a boat goes down really fast, the people around it have to be careful because they can get sucked down with that boat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that whole, all that sort of idea where it's just creating a suction. Somebody come on, debate me, motherfuckers.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't, I'm not going to. That's super interesting.
Yeah.
It's an easy way. You just take a known yielder and run it the whole time one way, one direction. I can do it. That's very cool.
Yeah.
Can find this out. There we go. DBS doing it. One direction with the solvent, with the Osprey.
Cool.
Let us know.
Yeah.
Bro.
Now,
come on tomorrow. We'll be here. You tell us how it went.
yeah. Now, also, let us know if you went with one really long spin or if you went in like couple-minute cycles of it spinning one way, stopping, and then continuing to spin again that way.
Yeah, no, don't stop. Don't stop.
So when I did it in the barrel, no, everything just stayed within that vortex. It was really cool. If anything, I feel like once I got the material moving really well, and this was a 5K in a 32-gallon bruteless. I used the stainless steel bruteless vessel for that because I find in the bruteless like it's perfectly smooth. You can get an amazing vortex going in those in hand washing, and that's why I hate liners for those. Like a true naked wash, not a naked wash.
So like, even if you had one of Hashtek's like liners with the wire, that would still cause issue because it's not a smooth surface on the inside of the bag.
No, I think the liner, or wait, with the I have yet to find a wash liner. Like if you're talking about a mesh liner, a 220 micron liner,
yeah.
I've yet to find one of those that has allowed me the vortex style movement that I'm talking about within the bruteless. You also can't do this in a brute trash can. Those things going up against the side, like it's not going to create a good vortex, and it's not going to have the same thing. That will actually act as the water moving the opposite direction. Just those like kind of splines that are within the brute containers. It'll disrupt the water enough that it's not gonna be a good test of it. If you want like something, it would have to be. The Osprey is good because the corners are designed to turn the material over. I noticed at really low RPM that doesn't really happen, but once you get it moving, like what I'm talking about, because you do want to do this at just a slightly higher RPM than you normally would, because you're not worrying about going in the opposite direction and really beating up the material. You're just worrying about how fast and how slow you're starting it, because that's the whole idea. Is you're not trying to smack the paddle into the material.
Yeah.
As far as not causing contaminant. But then the idea of separating them is you're just trying to create a vacuum through creating a fast enough vortex.
Interesting. Yeah, Harps, who's a buddy, he said similar concepts of fluid flows are seen in river holes that pin kayakers. I think that's, the holding them down underneath the flow. I think that makes a lot of sense. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's what I know, the hashtag homie, he wants me to leave a review on his stuff, but I need to get in his machine more because I need to test these series and I just need to do more of my own thing with it. So that way I can really see how I feel about it. What's that?
We weren't even running the machine properly set up.
Yeah, or even just running the machine properly set up. Like, I don't know. Whatever. I don't know how you're going to see the bottom of that, see that lip in there, and not be like, yo, why is this here? Why is there not a false bottom? What am I missing? And just ask a question. One question will resolve that. So,
yeah. No, it'll be good. It'll be good to get your hands on the machine again, and Mission's grabbing one, so you'll be able to play with that at theirs. And
I love the conical bottoms, bro. That's like one of my favorite things. Anything that has a tilted or conical bottom, I'm a big fan of.
Yeah. Yeah, 100% harps. The vacuum he
Yep.
speaks of can be felt when you pull the boat under strong forces. Yeah, just like Mikey was saying, when a boat's sinking, you get pulled under. That's super interesting. Like you almost could design large, like using that theory, you could attack large scale, like large scale extraction a little bit differently. Large scale solventless extraction, combining more like gold mining machinery, creating slurries over like barrels. And it's interesting. It's something everybody should think about.
Yeah. I gotta mute myself and get this dab heated up real quick.
Get that dab in you. Man, whatever I smoked looked like it was like a 10 at 2 or whatever they say. Like it looked good. Good from far, but far from good. Holy shit. My nose, I feel like I've been bopped in the face. Ugh. You need to smoke some more good resin to get that bad resin taste out of me.
Gotta figure out how to get this fucking door open.
Harps or anybody in the chat, you guys got anything to add to this? It's a pretty cool concept. I'm thinking about it all. 6 ways to Sunday. I mean,
All right, there we go. All right, I'm gonna mute myself right quick.
recirculating diaphragm pump that's moving water up and back through the vortex. You could run some type of continual extraction system that would eventually you'd be able to just pull the media out and add new media to. There you go. Went home at 2. Yeah. That's it. Interesting. What's everybody smoking on? You can do that with an airlift pump. Interesting. MTS has got some fucking sharp ideas, I'll tell you that. Smoking on some Fire OG from the main man Canadian Dabs right now. It came out quite nice, and I like this consistency very much. You're just able to like ice cream. What up, bro? We're just Ro. We're talking about some crazy shit, bro. We're talking about MTS doesn't think that the glands separate from the excision point on the like turn of the water. He thinks it's the pressure that's created by the vortex of the water, and so he feels as though if you move like the wash the whole time in one direction, you're going to get.
So
go ahead.
So let me say, so I do think that you create the same thing through both. I think that you create the vacuum that pulls the trichome off across the entirety of it, especially towards the outside of the vortex, versus I think when you change direction with the paddle, just where you're moving that paddle through is only creating that negative pressure, that vacuum that's pulling the heads off. So I think you're separating them more aggressively, but in a smaller space. in creating more plant material in the water when you're doing that, versus a vortex will create the same thing, but more gently over a longer period of time. So.
They're all recorded. They're all going up on the Banyan Trees YouTube channel. We started putting them up, so you can find them all there. They'll be saved there forever. So in case one day they take my page from me, you'll still find those. That's what Frenchie and his machine did. Frenchie agreed with the vortex. Ooh, Frenchie's with the vortex. The machine. Interesting. 2 mins each way. Why even turn it? Why not 4 mins one way? Jaffio? What's the reasoning?
All right, there we go. Got one in me.
All right, Ro was just talking. He was saying how Frenchie was with the vortex and preached the vortex, and the machine that Roa has designed creates a vortex both ways, 2 minutes each way. And I said, well, why wouldn't you just go 4 minutes one way? He says the turn agitates and moves the frozen pile perhaps a bit. That's what it might be. And yeah.
Yeah, I think there's just value to the turn. I just don't think it is what we consider it to be, and especially if you're creating a good vortex, I don't think it needs to happen nearly as often as you think it does.
Yeah. Interesting. Interesante.
But yeah.
Oh, you use the Frenchie machine, the one from Delta Separations? Yeah. That's dope. I remember when he came out with that.
Yeah. I wonder if Low Temp saw the Frenchie machine, and if that's why they rounded their corners and made it more square like that. Initially, I didn't like that design. Because when I saw it first move, I just saw material hanging out in the corners that wasn't really moving.
It must be for a reason.
Yeah, they say that that's actually that turns the water over and puts what's on the bottom on top. And they can show that with little colored balls in the water, but I don't think material acts the exact same way. I think at certain RPMs it probably works the way that they want it to, and with others it doesn't. We're talking about the way the Osprey machine from Low Templates works. What temp were the ISIS machines running? So what I mean when I say people aren't often running ISIS setups, what I mean is that their room is not cold enough, that their water going in is not cold enough. Like there was a hobbyist guy that I was talking to from out in one of the states that is much cooler to run, so he could do his stuff much more openly. And he was doing iceless, and he was filling 150 or a 300 gallon reservoir and then turning on his cold room, which he had 2 different split units to, for 3 days, and getting the water like down to 40 degrees and then like pre-chilling before he went in, and like he'd have to do a whole bunch of small washes to account for that, and like so the water didn't get too warm by the time he pulled. It's just like, dude, just throw in some ice. Just throw in some ice. Like, what are you doing? If you want to have an ISIS wash, cool. Your room better be like max of 34 degrees. You better have like maybe a glycol chiller or the amount that you can pre-chill everything. You know, if you like, say you have a 55-gallon just full of small ice chunks, and you're pre-chilling everything into there, and then running it out of there and making sure that that's completely stocked with ice, and then you have another 20-gallon for your sprayer, like maybe. But past that, like, what are you doing? No, too many people are trying to do something because they're being told by a company that's trying to profit off of it that they should be doing it. You know, I think where the value comes from no ice is that you're creating a larger material or a larger water to material ratio. Um, yeah, and that possibly, with how you agitate, it could create more plant material, depending on how much ice and whatever.
No,
Because that's
it's super interesting. Because I mean, a lot of people are thinking like iceless is for one thing, or the benefits are one way, and I think the benefits are really you're just allowing more material into the vessel, and then if your theory is that the ice isn't acting as any kind of agent to separate glands from trichomes, which we know it isn't, then there's no real reason for it to be present.
right. Yeah.
What do you
Yeah.
mean?
So
Sorry, go ahead.
so whenever I've gone like the iceless route, I've still gone small amount of ice, and I just found it to be a lot of extra work and not something like production friendly. And I am looking, even from a hobbyist standpoint, of doing things that are production friendly that still create high quality. I don't want to have to put in ridiculous amounts of extra work, especially if I can get the same thing by not doing that.
Delta Rowe just said Delta separations machine has an internal jacket, but he's never used it. What do you mean by internal jacket, Rowe? Like internal glycol jacket, or what do you mean by that? I have very little experience with the separations machine. I haven't ever been in anything but a trade show with one.
I do like the. I mean, even just the jacketed Osprey, that thing held temp amazingly. The room that I was working in was 60 degrees the entire time.
Yeah.
I wasn't adding ice between rounds. Like, it was keeping everything 32 once we got it chilled. So.
And that's just a neoprene jacket?
No, it's stainless steel jacketed.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, yeah.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah, and they sell that, so you can have it just as stainless steel jacketed, or they do make it with lines to run a glycol chiller, which,
yeah,
something that I find value in.
Interesting. Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, eventually when you cost out the ice, if you don't own an ice machine, even if you do, you cost out the ice machine. I mean, at that point, it starts making a lot of sense.
Anytime I've looked into the glycol chillers, they've just been so super expensive.
Yeah, no, it's got to be. It's an economy of scale. You got to hit a certain size. But
yeah, so that, and like for small home stuff that I was just running in my lab, the cheapest I ever got quoted from like one of the professional companies was $6,000, and most of the time it was up at like 20. And they were saying that would get my water down to like whatever degrees over. It was never less than like 12 to 24 hours. It's just like, no, that's not what I'm looking for at all. Like, especially if I'm paying 20 racks, like I want to be able to put in regular temperature water and have it come out fucking cold. Like that's, yeah. So I don't know. Cascade all those guys, like get your chiller game up. Find better solutions for a more cost-effective price.
it
has to be out there.
Cold water. Yeah, there's definitely ways to do it. It's going to be interesting to see if that, because like, I mean, if you can just spin one way, more or less shake and pull the glands off you're using less energy inherently, you know? So
Yeah.
I think that that is something that's really interesting to think about.
Yeah. We go. I'm gonna go hang with the kid.
Go hang with the kid, brother. Have a good trip.
Yep. And anybody that has thoughts and interest on what we were talking on tonight, feel free to hit my DM. I like nerding out on these machines, so I like hearing other people's experiences. Like,
Peace, brother.